She was attacked by what appears to be essentially a robot.
Do you want the Star Wars trilogy and the mythology to go beyond your lifetime?
No. 3 will be the last film, and it'll be a 6-part series, and that'll be the end of it.
Incorrect.
You're not mentoring someone to take over for you?
No, it's...
Automatic defense procedures initiated.
There may be other venues for it, but not in the theatrical release.
Affirmative.
I don't want to have it just sort of turn into Star Trek.
Hello, everybody out there, live. Buddy, I'm with you. Welcome to Stargate 0102.25. Get out to the live, let us know we're out here. Welcome all. We've done years, events, finished up. No nothing else we have to use about the planes for these Star Trek stuff. And you know what? We're having good fun. I got my buddies with me. You got me. So, have fun. Hey everybody, it's your buddy Admiral Teag, and I'm here with my pals Cyrus and Resolute Germ. Hi guys.
Hey, buddy. You had that a little loud. You were talking, but the music was so loud, I couldn't hear a single word you said.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me know that. I don't know if that's how it transmitted to StreamYards, but I do say hi to everyone.
Tried to let you know. But, hey, if you don't make mistakes, then you'll never learn, right? And if you never make mistakes, then you're probably not doing a good job.
I think what I have to do is find a way to put that through a different method of beginning, so the music is not as loud, or just remaster it lower. Who knows?
What you can do on OBS, all you have to do is move the slider to like the right, or depending on how you're playing it, whatever you're playing it through, you should be able to control it. But anyway,
you're right about that. And I want to say hi to everyone out there. Welcome to the first 2 or 3 minutes of the show where we actually have a conversation rather than playing like a 7-minute intro to get people ready for the show, which is also a legit thing, but people do it. I don't know. I asked my buddies, what do you think of shows that have like more than a 1-minute intro?
It's probably making up for how crap the rest of the show is.
It can work sometimes just to let people flow in, especially with how unreliable the YouTube notifications are.
I have a funny feeling that since I went right ahead and allowed AdSense to have a say in this show every 10 to 12 minutes, I think it's about 12, 14 minutes between.
I thought you were talking about TV. My bad.
Oh, we're talking about both. Actually, you know what? There was an incident here in New York that I'll speak to after we get a few more minutes into the show, because as we know, there's a countdown on how serious we can be early. I don't have any issue with people who have longer openings, but the sound was overloading, huh? All right, we'll fix that shit.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about TV. So, for live streams and stuff, having it like a little longer, it's fine because, like you said, people can pour in. That's totally fine. For TV, like if you have some
30
Wars
seconds.
or Trek, and you have like 23 minutes of show, and 7 of your minutes is your intro, and the rest is ads.
Star Trek Enterprise, the beginning is exactly like 58 seconds long or something, which gives you like the 1 second in and out to like engineer it right, and a little margin for error, right? It's like the football game post show or whatever ends, and they're like, or it was a Wednesday, whatever it was, like, well, hockey from Madison Square Garden is over. We send you to Star Trek Enterprise, and they have that second buffer. And that's, I think, why a lot of the episodes we have on Paramount Plus seem to start at the 3-second mark and 5-second mark. I think they just cut out the safety margin. But I guess, for TV, I guess a minute on a podcast, what's the upper limit? 2.5? Because a 5-minute count, what's worse, a long countdown or a long intro?
Well,
they only had
I guess it depends what it's for. How that would matter. But in my opinion, if you see the countdown, you can at least interact with people. People will see the countdown. They'll interact with each other. They'll pour in slowly, link other people, whatever. So it's fine in cases like that, especially if it's going to be like a long show. This is all my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. Other than that, what was I going to say about that? It gives you a chance, even during a countdown, you can still interact with people, catch up with them, see what's going on, or just wait for the countdown. It's up to you, but different things can have different beginnings.
I think the hard limit for the countdown is 2.5 minutes for like just listening to the countdown music and watching it go down. 5 minutes is like almost antagonistic. 2.5 minutes I could deal with. A minute, that seems to be the standard. If you have a 1 minute countdown, I guess that has to come off your intro, because what happens is you go live and YouTube sort of wants things front loaded and wants you to hit everything with like a full head of steam and like a ton of bricks. So they want you to show up and have like 50 concurrents. And believe me, if we started injecting politics right into this, we probably could, but I don't know. Couple more minutes before we get into the nitty gritty of what happened near me the other day. It was pretty sad. It was last night, actually. But the first thing we'll do is I'll say it here. We're going to talk about Star Trek, and this is going to be some Star Trek news today. I have some information from the Tachyon podcast, Tachyon Pulse podcast, which Radioactive informed me of. It's an English guy, and he's pretty pragmatic. And the thing is, he doesn't have a lot of anger towards the new Trek. He seems to be willing to accept it. But when it's really bad, like the it's still Star Trek thing goes out the window, he claims he saw No Connection 31, Section 31.
By any chance, did that guy talk about Yorkshire tea at all?
No, I don't remember. At least I don't remember. Like, I was so sickened after his Star Trek story that I had to turn him off, even though he himself was okay. Brit dude, gray hair, balding, glasses, very territorial.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the best Brit creators is what's that guy? Spiffin Brit.
I don't know him. Is he something like Little Platoon?
He's like a guy that I haven't known him to do sci-fi stuff, but you never know when someone might be here or there. Basically, he always finds ways to totally cheese games, and it's super fun to watch.
That is super fun. And I think since gaming is 50 times bigger than movies, I might have to start doing some of that. Hello, Mr. House Party 6. Welcome. And I hope we find Ruby Hoove out there. I went to Culture Casinos this morning just to try to say thank you to Ruby Hoove. And I was running late and a couple of things going on. So I got there and I'm like, all right, let me find this person in the chat. And he's like, so take care of yourselves, take care of your friends, and see ya. And I was like, fuck. It's like, zoop, like the moment I got there. So tomorrow we'll try it again. But Ruby Hoove, thanks for giving memberships to the people on the channel. And Radioactive, thank you too. Mr. House Party, thank you for your generous gift the other day. It was a good New Year's Eve, and we had fun. You know what? The Tachyon Pulse saw a connection, No Connection 31. It's not really Star Trek. We saw what was going on there. This to me looked like, is anyone familiar with World War II classic, The Dirty Dozen?
Just a little bit.
Don't know about that one.
Here we go. The Dirty Dozen is like one guy who is pretty much a huge co-star character actor in Lee Marvin. Then we had a bunch of guys who were just like co-stars. We taped them all together like some kind of, we just strap all these guys into one big bundle. And so we have like people who are just barely movie worthy, but some of them get somewhere. It's got like Charles Bronson in it and other guys in it. Hello, the dead man. Acolyte, says Mr. House Party 6. At any rate, if they have a team of like 12 guys. One's like a major NFL player. He's well known. And, Lee Marvin is well known. Charles Bronson's pretty well known. And it's like there are a bunch of misfits in a military prison who get told that you can be allowed out of this death sentence and you can be allowed out of this military prison. And you can maybe go home, or you can maybe rejoin your regular unit, or maybe we keep you as like a spec ops group. But we're going to train you prisoners to be like a very high risk mission where you might not make it back. So because you're already dicks, you can do this mission. But because we have a problem with the idea that we might not get our guys back, you guys are just the only ones who can do it. And that has been Star Trek, and that has been Star Wars over and over and over and over. Kelly's Heroes is a slightly different thing. Everybody's sort of deserting and slacking out of the battle, and they decide to go rob a bank. But this idea that we have a bunch of military misfits or a bunch of military idiots, that goes back a long way. And it's been reused over and over. The most obvious one is the Bad Batch. So when I say a bunch of people who failed elsewhere, hello to the Trek Reviewer. It's nice to see you, Trek Reviewer. Trek Reviewer, I look forward to your No Connection 31.
Now that's someone that totally belongs in your chat. Just the name alone, that's great.
With the name alone, and Trek Reviewer, welcome aboard. It's good to see you. And the Dead Man, I believe he's got the South. Is that the South Carolina state crest, but in black, right? Or is it both Carolinas? It might be both. It's a pretty cool logo. So here's the deal. This guy was not unfriendly towards Star Trek in its new form, but he also, like, he wasn't rubber stamping it. What he said was, I saw Section 31, and what I saw wasn't quite finished, but I didn't like it. It didn't make sense. What was missing? CGI. So the fact that it was missing stuff like special effects and battle sequences, I don't see how that'll change the fate of it not making sense. He said Michelle Yeoh was used for like a day or two tops, and that she's so extensively doubled that it's just really distracting. Yep, we could call it that too. It's really distracting. It's really it's bad. Like, from what I understand, like, they didn't even get the greatest double. Like, you can just tell. It's the South Carolina flag with the Grateful Dead logo. I knew the Steal Your Face Dead logo. It's a cool avatar. Does the TV show Hogan's Heroes fall into Misfits in War? That does, because in Hogan's Heroes, some of them are there because they crashed their plane on purpose to get into the camp so that they could form a resistance cell within it. Or, like, I don't know if we ever get their origin, but Colonel Hogan and some of them seem to be there on purpose, because in Hogan's Heroes, you can just, like, kick a piece of the, like, last bunk in the room. The floor pops open and everyone goes down to a cool hangout bat cave that has, like, everything, including a radio, which shouldn't work underground and stuff like that. And they're basically running a resistance cell out of this German camp. It's based on a more serious movie and it has some serious people in it, but that does count. And it's probably more of a serious show than Bad Batch. Did anyone watch Bad Batch? Jerem, you have a thing for animation. Did you check it out just for that? And Happy New Year.
I did watch the first 2 seasons of Bad Batch. I never got around to the third one.
Is it basically we're a bunch of military misfits, but in this case, it's because something went wrong cooking the clones, right?
Yeah, they were defects to start with, and then they just leaned into that and enhanced them to be a spec op team.
Which is the story I just told, right? We have military misfits. In this case, they're human beings who did, like, crazy stuff. One guy's too dumb to be in the military. I forget who he is, the Swede. He's in a couple of other movies, and he's just like they're like, they bring him in a room, and they're interviewing everyone to see what's wrong with them. And, like, Telly Savalas, they're just like, so what's going on? It's like, women. I have a real problem with him. It's like right on the surface, he's totally crazy. He's quoting the Bible and stuff like that. And when they get to the Swede, he's like, oh, gee, I don't know how I ended up here. And he's like, you killed a man. He's like, oh, yeah, but, like, I didn't mean to. It's like, because you don't know your own strength. It's like, well, he shouldn't have gone and called me dumb. And it's like, you are dumb. That's why you're here. And it's like, you're going to be part of this team. And he's like, gee, I guess so. And he's like, no, get out of here before you accidentally do the same thing. And that's everyone in the Dirty Dozen. So the Bad Batch was okay. Explains how it went from clones to human troopers. Hey, Kronos, what's up, man? Good to see you. You know what, OB2? That would be probably at least a decent aspect of why they do it. To me, it seems like the Empire just consolidated so much power that they were able to go with pure patriotism, or they had 10 different kinds of clone and they were mixed together because you didn't have so many different voices, and their voices were so constricted and so modified through the way they spoke that they were almost like they were robotified men on purpose to have you wondering. George Lucas wanted that weirdness in the first few minutes. Are they robots? Are they men? So Anybody theories on what's going on with the Empire by the time we get to A New Hope? Is it just guys who join? It's like, be all you can be a stormtrooper.
Pretty much, they phased out the clones because they were very, very expensive.
That makes sense. And here's the thing: it really lines up with reality. Because let's say the Empire, and we know it lasts 25 years, basically, with the amount of time spent, dealing with the end of it with Luke and Leia and the rebellion, which is already going on. But first of all, the New Republic proved, and the New and Old Republic proved, that there's no stable way to rule the galaxy, and the Empire did nothing wrong. I'll just say that. But with the Bad Batch, it's the same thing. So No Connection 31 is, get this, good news. It's only 1 2.5 hour movie, give or take. It might be less, it might be more, but it's one movie. It's not 10 events. So thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, on that one. Bad Batch was A-Team with clones. The A-Team is the Dirty Dozen idea. In 1968, a U.S. military team went rogue and robbed a military jail. They were all put in various high security military prisons from which they promptly escaped. Now, if you can find them, and if you have the money, maybe you can hire the A-Team. It was the same thing. They were a little too crazy for the military. And usually part of the any military bad guys misfit thing is that the people in control of the military are wrong in the first place. So anything that you did was so what if you killed your superior officer? He was like an imperial lowlife. You know what I mean? So that's what works with the clones thing. I guess clones.
I had to do it. As soon as you guys were saying Bad Batch was 18 with clones, I decided to put it through something. Take a look.
Is that like a modern woke A-Team through Grok?
No, I just said the Bad Batch characters made them look like the A-Team. There's 3 more of these.
The guy up front, who I guess is based on Tamura Morrison, he looks like Paul Sorvino. It looks like a scene from Fallout meets a scene from Breaking Bad, and it's just somewhere out in this desert there are some drugs from the 21st century buried that we can go after. And welcome to minute 17. How the hell are you? All right. No Connection 31 is about a 2 to 3 hour movie. I don't know the exact length. They don't know the exact length. They ain't finished yet. The guy saw it. He said both endings were underwhelming and he didn't like it. He said it reminded me of Star Trek Discovery, in which he sounded to be it was positive to him. But then he noted the guy did seem to like Star Trek Discovery. His notation was, but not the best of Star Trek Discovery. So if you get to the point where you're not the best of Star Trek Discovery, my question is, what are you? If the worst of Star Trek Discovery, what could possibly be worse than the worst of Star Trek? Beyond. Imagine on par with the worst of Star Trek Discovery. So everything else he said sort of is validated by that next statement. Not really making sense. Jerem, you've avoided all new Trek, as has Cyrus, correct?
For the most part.
Almost all. I've only watched stuff with you, and I hated almost every minute of it because it was so bad. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed talking to you, being on the show and talking about how bad it is, but that was just the worst people. The lighting. What is with the lighting?
The lighting is terrible. It's so popular level.
On lighting.
I think that all the problems of Star Trek pile up at once. The first was they never truly knew what they were doing. Alex Kurtzman, his live action production is Xena Warrior Princess. Then he goes to Transformers Prime. That's considered good for Transformers. And I think that him, with a lot of help from his co-writers, that may have been where he reached his depth. And I would ask Jerem, since he's more familiar, is there anything that you could say from Transformers Prime where you could see this coming, this kooky heel turn where he's going to be ultimately ultra political? Or you said it was more like he just cut and pasted right out of a successful comic? Wait,
Transformers Prime or Transformers 1?
Is it? Prime. It's Prime.
Prime is a series.
This is about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that.
It ends.
I thought that was rather enjoyable.
Star Trek Discovery. Most people did. Jerem has the story of how it came to be, how it was. Go for it, Jerem.
Yeah, I don't think he had too much authority on that show. It was more, this is the story Hasbro wanted. He had a little bit of influence on one of the characters is a little bit flamboyant, but Hasbro,
which means he was insisting the character was gay, wasn't he? In our opinions, he was insisting that we make the character gay. It was probably what happened.
He probably had that in mind, but Hasbro luckily had a good choke chain on him.
The way to put it would be that he was it Bumblebee?
No, the Decepticon medic.
Oh, I didn't really get that. I just got that he was overly into the paint job more than anything. You know, because he wanted to be a fast car and all that jazz.
Yeah, Hasbro telling them to tone it down.
I think it's more like a really big explosion at the board meeting and we didn't like this horse shit because we sniffed it out where you have this character is absolutely just a stand-in and a cutout for yourself. And it's like, so we hired a private detective to follow you around. Mr. Kurtzman, you're secretly married to a woman despite pushing this agenda. You're cheating on that woman with another woman. This would ruin your reputation in Hollywood because you pretend to be a gay loner. Do you want us to tell people that you're actually a heterosexual? Please, please, no, I need to eat. Please, please, no. So make this character more normal. I'll just make him flashy. Get out of our office. I think that might have happened because it's not like that was more. You said it could also be viewed as while the story was good from his end of it as a producer, he didn't do much dialogue writing, and it was almost could be called a lazy cut and paste, though the artists did well. Would that be fair?
Yeah, his input on the series overall was thankfully limited, I believe. Hasbro does have the habit of being very hands-on and don't mess with our IP, or else we'll bury you.
We saw him not walk away from a project and drop his ideas so that he could be accepted and make money. We saw him do that. So he will accept anything. By the way, Tachyon Pulse guy did make a point that the Star Trek without Kurtzman, the newer stuff, some of it occasionally is okay. Like SNW is terrible though, but like people have to stop saying that sometimes it's good. It's never good. Stormtroopers are a mix of volunteers and conscripts. I could believe that in their world, it's like, you know, so you want to steal some spice? You can do 2 years in the spice mines or 2 years as an Imperial Stormtrooper. To be like, I'll take Stormtrooper. And I believe there are some planets where it's like, your planet has been really uncool. You are now a Stormtrooper or, you know, or else. And hey to Sci-Fi Sith Dan, check out my channel recommends tab. He's in there. Friend of mine. Good guy. Hello, Sci-Fi Sith Dan.
Yeah, he know more about Transformers Prime than either of us.
Yeah, I was enjoying watching some of it with him until I left that one creator group. But if I got a pass, I'd go back on Sci-Fi Sith Dan's pretty cool. And because I don't really care for Transformers, I could be objective. First of all, it's kind of fun. It didn't have great meaning to me, so when they do lore weirdness, I don't get that upset. And it has to be explained to me what they're breaking anyway. So here's the thing. It's so popular that it's important for me to know a little bit about it. And with this Roberto Orci guy, Kurtzman does better. I think that Orci was just writing everything and Kurtzman was like, set up that shot, take a picture that way. Because that's bad all the time. But the writing when Orci was around was not as bad. They kept the show on the air for 10 years. But I mean, that show also was a shell game. Hawaii Five-0 was really bad. Howlin' Mad, what's up? Hawaii Five-0 was really bad. Really bad. But it was on up against Monday Night Football. So Germ, Cyrus, we all know what that means. The biggest rated show every week during football season, 18, 19 weeks a year is always Monday Night Football. Preseason, whatever. If I have a 22 episode season and the first 17 are under Monday Night Football, and then after Monday Night Football, I rerun it, aren't you getting more than half of your audience will never have seen the episode before? So the first time you do all right. It's all right. Like women watch it because the star was cute. Like my mom thought the actor was handsome and stuff like that. But then after football, women are like, oh, I like Hawaii Five-0. And like guys will just sit through it for an hour because it's filled with gunfights and the chick from Battlestar Galactica runs around in a bikini. But Ortsy was like co-writer on that one. If it was just Kurtzman, I have a feeling it would have been Stephanie McGarrett and female Hawaii Five-0. But he was able to go pretty far based on that show being perceived as a success. Based on my Monday Night Football analogy, do you think there's something to what I said where maybe the rerun did just as good as the original showing and people were like, wow, this is a statistical anomaly, but there's an explanation they overlooked?
Yeah, the reruns for stuff airing against football, when it comes up in, say, the spring, they tend to do a little bit better than you normally would think for a rerun. Because
maybe even a lot better.
Half the time, the audience never even knew that show came out. They were too busy with Monday Night Football.
With Hawaii Five-0, the show was made on a second grade level, but at least mostly sometimes made sense. There was some dumbness to it, but here's the thing. They had a chick running around in a bikini, so they knew that was important. But like the show was terrible because they could never have two cops in an office with a sandwich with like a cup of coffee, you know what I mean? Like doing cop things, maybe one of them smoking a cigarette, and it's just like, we got to crack this case. We've been at it for 2 days. It would just be like all plot was unveiled during gunfights and snarky conversations. And I'm talking like body counts so high that we're talking this would be on CNN and Fox News for like a week. It's like the Hawaii Special Crime Suppression Unit, known as 5-0, killed 45 more people today in a running machine gun duel that also had a driving component. It was absolutely crazy batshit show. Did you ever see the Kurtzman Hawaii Five-0? This is a good movie. You didn't miss much, but the thing was, like, women would watch it. My mom was like, Scott Conn can kind of act, but I don't know what they're sort of doing with him. But I like him as a person. And the star, he's pretty cute in an Irish kind of way, she liked Irish guys. So she watched that show. And like before I knew it, it was gone. But it had gone 10 years. And I think their Magnum show is still limping along with everything that is wrong with what they do. Magnum is a guy, but Higgins is a chick. Has anyone seen this turd?
Teague, just to rewind a little bit, Germ, was it you that was talking about not Starscream, Knockout?
Yeah, I think that was Knockout.
Okay, I was trying my quickest to get this clip, but I found the perfect clip from this, and I think you'll appreciate it. Teague, you'll probably find this hilarious if you saw this as well.
It was a long drive, Starscream. I'm still picking bugs out of my grill.
Yes, right. You're one of those.
Is that from one of the earlier movies? Or is that from
That's
Prime?
from Transformers Prime.
That's from Prime.
We have good voices in
second
Prime
season,
too.
I believe.
I gotta give this. The Megatron voice, well done. The Starscream voice, perfect. Wouldn't change it. Those were my favorite two voices.
I wonder if Cobra Commander and Starscream may have been one and the same person.
Just imagine if Cobra Commando was in Starscream in jet mode and then just ejected and started using his little laser pistol.
He would miss everybody, but he would cause havoc, and probably a lot of cars would turn over and we'd see people get out of it. That was the thing.
He's not a stormtrooper.
That's true, but like in the world of G.I. Joe, it was just kind of one big A team where we made sure to show people crawling days from the car wreck in one piece. And there's rules to how to show whether your good guys, how violent they are. Like Batman's not supposed to kill.
Me, Teague.
I forgot about that one. Thank you. Like Batman's not supposed to kill, but like here's the thing. If you're the Penguin and you're holding an innocent person like over a ledge and you're like, ha ha ha, Batman, F you. Batman will intercede and will probably kill a henchman if that henchman tries to stop him. It's just your problem that you don't have a way to stop from falling all the way to the bottom of that 40-story building he threw you off. Isn't that more or less Batman's rules of engagement, right? While Batman doesn't kill, that mostly extends to his primary adversary, and if no one else's life is at stake. Ben Affleck 50 cal soaring through a freaking truck for no reason. That's gratuitous, but let's say like some of those aliens Batman just thoughtlessly kills trying to save other people. First of all, they're aliens. or a henchman to the Joker or the Penguin trying to stop Batman from doing something that would save a life. Like in Spider-Man with the Green Goblin, it's like you can save the people in the cable car, or you could save MJ. Like Batman would kill someone, Spider-Man would kill someone in that situation. Anybody?
Wow, look at Sith Den. He knew the exact episode that was from. Dang.
Dad knows his shit. He knows his shit. Here we go.
Tell you that was from Transformers 1.
Season 1 episode from season 1 episode titled Speed Metal. You know, Sci-Fi Sith Den, way to go.
Did they say Transformers Prime or Transformers 1 that time?
You said everyone keeps saying 1 because it's still out there, but the Transformers might be ONE, but I don't know if they're getting to WON as far as their 1 anytime soon. People said Transformers 1. The controversial woke element was it seemed to like take away from the masculinity in general of the Transformers, and to be setting up like back to kids to regrow it from the bottom up. It's like basically a reboot, and if it was a football team, a rebuilding is what people are saying about what they're getting from Transformers 1. And they're also saying the art might have taken a step back. Now I leave that to you guys.
Yeah, the art is it wasn't quite movie quality. It seemed like is meant more for a Paramount Plus release, and the voices were a bit harsh to get used to because the Megatron and Optimus Prime voice actors, who were the primary ones since the 80s, both retired, so they had to replace them. It's pretty much the time they have to do a reboot, but they didn't quite hit the mark on it.
So it's a bad reboot, and it's sort of maudlin, and it doesn't look like it's worth building up from this one. So rebooting failed, and they have to reboot maybe again. Or do you think they has enough here to pick up the pieces and pretend that some of this stuff didn't happen? It's still a cartoon, right?
Yeah, it still has potential if they do a time jump. I'd say would be their best option. But
so where
it is in it that if they want to keep it in that time period, they should try again.
So there's major plot issues. And by the way, I just want to say thank you all for being here. It just shows what's going on. Mark Harkness is here. Hello, Mark. I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. Yeah, that is Batman in tough moments. Yes, Cyrus.
So I linked you, and feel free to link the chat if you want. But there's this hilarious video from College Humor about how Batman doesn't kill. It has, I forget his name.
Patton Oswalt.
Yes. Whole thing about how he doesn't kill and his enemies are sleeping and stuff. I would recommend if people find it funny that people say Batman doesn't kill, but obviously he's taking out some henchmen. Watch that video. It's great.
You know what? We may come back later and just try to get some views tonight as far as shorter, more effective shows that are worth listening to. And by the way, guys, you can count on us being fairly scripted up front after we do the hello, how are you, and shout people out, because we're still getting to a point where YouTube seems to have shook off a couple of issues with us. Starstream and Cobra Commander simultaneously pointing at each other. You mistake me for the pompous blowhard. Yeah, like the Spider-Man meme, everyone pointing at each other. Hey, your Muslim uncle, Happy New Year. Hail Admiral Teag, panel and chat, taking care of Sufi Mom and listening. Patron Oswald sucks. He does. I don't know if that's a like the R's next to the T, but Patron Oswald is still, he patronizes us. That's accidentally true, your Muslim uncle. So thank you, whether that be on purpose or not. I would say claim it's on purpose because it's relatively brilliant, saying it that way. And so here we go. Once upon a time, a man named Ted Turner had an innovative idea. Okay. It was this. His cable TV, it was about how to circumvent FCC rules. Okay. So let me start that again. Once upon a time, a man named Ted Turner had an innovative idea on how to circumvent FCC regulations, Federal Communications. Okay. So his cable TV empire needed to be free of excessive commercials, be capable of showing some skin and some blood occasionally, and even allowing for the occasional curse word, right? Above all, he wanted to avoid breaking for news, okay? He didn't want to break from programming for news. But that was something mandated by the government for every broadcaster. His solution was called CNN. it's a workaround. It wasn't supposed to turn into anything big. It was supposed to be like C-SPAN. Turner's network still broadcasts over the air in Georgia and in some other places. So by having a channel that only had news all the time, he freed up his other channels for things like showing his Atlanta Braves baseball team's games. And news all the time just didn't sink in for a while. It was like C-SPAN. It was just something that existed. Anybody remember far back enough to when this is when it was?
Real quick, Mark Harkness has pictures for you.
Mark Harkness says, Starscream and Cobra Commander. Was this the one? I think I read this one.
No, look at it versus my picture.
Oh, you know what? We react right away here on the show. We've got Cyrus going with Grok, not just gaming anymore, but like one image after another. This is pretty good. You. That Cobra Commander had to be slightly non-copyright infringing, but is it me? Or that's sometimes how Cobra Commander will look early on in some of these stories, right? He goes through like a metal face transformation. Is he still sometimes Snake Eye's brother?
In the original release, I believe it's like 5 episodes or 15 episodes. I can't remember the number. He has the hood. Then the primary series, he goes to the
metal
face mask.
Which Destro, I guess, made for him?
The hilarious thing about that is if you think about it, that might have been a way to save on animation cost as well, because you just have to do the same thing but make it look like it's rotated. You don't have to do all the facial expressions.
The hood just had like a Cobra thing on it, and it never moved or waved around. It was static. It was like it was made of plastic. But then when he went to the metal chrome face, I do think it was more effective. And we get a couple of backstories for Cobra Commander. They don't always match up. Isn't he at one point a real try-hard kind of traveling salesman who just can't make a buck in cracks? Like, isn't that one origin story for Cobra Commander?
Yeah, he has several. They had one in the comics. They, of course, had the movie tie-in with Cobra La. And
right.
They actually had something else too printed on the back of the action figures.
Right. So we have 3 different ways to get to what made Cobra Commander. Let's see. Transformers Robots in the Skies from 2015 I found was very disappointed, to say the least. It was too stupid and made the villain look like complete fools. Put your channel link in there, Sci-Fi Sith Dan, for people who want to jump into the Transformers stuff deeply. You do a great job. And hopefully I'll be back soon. At least in Transformers Prime show, the villains the villains are able to do their jobs and are threatening, and at least win every so often, and make them threatening and a force to take seriously. I'm going to say that Alex Kurtzman didn't mind seeing a bunch of male Autobots lose, and it probably helped the stakes. And also, like you said, the comic book, the source was good, the methodology was lazy, but the end result was better because Alex Kurtzman's creativity doesn't get in there much at all. This was sourced off a good comic book, correct?
Primarily, yeah. A lot of elements from the style went more toward the motion pictures, which were big at that era. But thankfully, they got most of the material from the actual sources.
So we're going to mix our metaphors here. We're talking Transformers as we talk about what I call today's price of truth question, right? So listen, what was originally called CNN was a workaround. We talked about it. C-SPAN still is where ESPN was at for like the first 15 years. Does anybody remember? No one cares about CNN. It just exists. Is anyone old enough to recall that? It's pre-1990.
I wasn't really aware of much before 1990.
Someone get a time machine and make sure they never come about. You'll do the world a favor.
Honestly, I don't think that CNN per se was always the problem. They kind of are now. What happened was the idea that was sort of taken up by Murdoch. And if you want to say he improved it, you could say that. Anchorman 2, which is a stupid movie, has something to do with this kind of news. What happens is now they show up. Hey, Starkavarian, what's going on? Lord Megatron says hello, folks. Choom, here comes the Choom, ready or not. Hail, everyone. Is that Transformer stuff that I don't get? Am I missing that one? Am I whiffing on Choom?
By the way, when I looked
Not
it
that I
up,
know of.
Sci-Fi Sit Down mentioned the 2015 Robots in Disguise. I was like, why don't I remember that? I took a look at the poster. It's like, oh yeah, because that one's like really for kids more than anybody. So yeah, everybody has to be relatively incompetent.
You're at odds with yourself. Here's the thing: the Transformers come out right before the Simpsons, within like 2 or 3 years. So we're talking like 30 months tops. Here's the thing: the Transformers show up in a world where it's still implied and believed that it will be for children simply because it is a cartoon. Guys, anyone on this one?
Oh yeah, definitely for children.
And the fact that it's implied means it's for children. And it took Batman in '89 to change this for Batman. The fact that it was Batman, who is often a cartoon, that implied that it was child-friendly content just from being Batman. Remember those days, at least?
Oh yeah, that definitely fooled my parents. If they knew better, they would never let a 6-year-old in to see that movie.
The first one with parents, a 6-year-old can handle, but you need to have a serious talk. The most damaging movie I ever saw at my parents was called Kramer versus Kramer. I didn't realize that there was just nothing else playing. My parents took me to see this movie, and for some weird reason, they didn't sit next to each other. They sat on either side of me. And the Kramer versus Kramer, it's got like graphic stuff in it. It's got like nudity in it. It's got like, I think his wife leaves him and becomes a lesbian, like Meryl Streep's his ex-wife. It's like, go fuck yourself. And all this other stuff in that show, in that movie. And like this movie, like I'm like a little kid and I'm like, why are they taking me to this movie? Why are they sitting on other sides of me? They usually hold hands during movie. Why? So like when I came out of that movie, I'm like, woo, like crying. And my parents are like, what's wrong? I'm like, I know you're getting divorced. And they're like, what? It's like, clearly we should have gone to see The Goodbye Girl. So that was the scariest time in a movie ever. But as far as back to the network news thing, the Gulf War changes everything in the 1990s, and the network becomes a household name in TV news a record. So it should be noted at this point, it was still attached to other stuff that generated income through traditional entertainment, such as MTV is on like the same kind of cable packages, and it's taking the burden off of CNN to be a profitable company, as far as it only has to generate sort of enough money to run itself. Now, professional journalism's got really taken a beating. Before it took a beating, most professional journalists were let go. The iPhone and the functional smartphone by 2006, 2007, it lines up with all the stories of like, CNN just got rid of an entire bureau, and the New York Times like outsourcing all their Middle East stuff and things like that, because you basically had democratized reporting on the scene that was going to undercut you. Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to be that old Choom Fusion Cat. Oh, okay, I get you. Thank you. It's like a pew pew. Pew pew. Yes, then soon you'll be old, and with any luck, you'll be old for a lot longer than you were ever young, as that lasts longer. So you know what? And everyone's saying hello. It's good to see people getting along and people wishing Happy New Year's to each other. Look, in the next decade, Fox shows up. By 1996, they're the competitor. They show up, but it doesn't catch on until 9/11. So there's a real delay and a real lack of profitability for the first few years of your news network. From 9/11 for the next decade, Fox and CNN vie for the number one news spot, and later each becomes independent news-only companies. Fox is owned by the Australian Murdochs, and CNN's ownership just keeps changing in the last couple of years. Latecomer MSLSD with no real identity, and the MS immediately being a drag on likability, is reserved for dentists' waiting rooms in liberal areas. Anybody want to comment on MSLSD? Have we tried? I'm sure everyone put it on for at least a minute or two at some point to see what the hell is going on. Comments?
It is a staple of airports everywhere.
And dentist's offices. Yeah, is it because it's rather milquetoast, or is it because they think the left-wing stuff like won't bother people? Are there complaints because of Fox? Because the CNN airport network was like substance-free, and that was everywhere for a long time.
Actually, I think they're making deals with these airports. This is what we have on.
And the airport's like, it would be better if you had a story that didn't scare people in the airport and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a nice way to help artificially boost your ratings. if you have 1,000 TVs in an airport all tuned into it,
you can claim however many people on the airport.
Comcast can fudge the numbers a bit to make your ratings look a little bit better for advertisers.
It's on at the Ruby Tuesdays in the Atlanta airport. There's 700 people in there. They're all watching it. They have no choice. They never mention the sound's turned off, right? People are just getting drunk between flights or whatever. But what happens is, my question is this. When news is now a commodity and there's money in it, doesn't that mean that when news isn't happening, there's still 24 hours to fill and that you want to make as much money as possible if you're one of these institutions?
Yeah, that's what 9/11 pretty much killed news because it became for profit after that point.
Well, Fox always was.
They all see that, hey, everyone's watching this. We need this money coming in all the time. So there has to be something that level always happening.
What happens is there's a nexus event for CNN, and that's the first Gulf War. And people want to watch the news all the time. And the networks are like, we paid millions of dollars for these TV shows, and this war will be over in a few weeks. And CNN just blows away all network TV. And then they're like, they become a source of profit. And they're like, there's a way to keep fever pitch for news this high. So it was the news and information fever pitch before anything else. Then Fox comes along. Their newspapers were always sensationalistic and kind of fucked up, but they skewed right. But the stories in the New York Post are always the worst, most brutal, fucked up stories ever. But the fact is that now news is a commodity and there's still 24 hours to kill. And the environment is characterized by sensationalism, profit-driven reporting, and an overfocus on tragedies. The news networks have become mere misery merchants, and they're sifting through and excluding all events that can't be categorized as profitable to focus on those that are. Anybody? I give it to you, gentlemen.
That's how cable news has been my entire life.
You're only starting to bother watching news around Gulf War-ish time to 9/11 is when you begin even watching it. So you basically exist in the two networks of nonstop news world. So you had at least a choice. CNN for a little while tried to be, I guess their thought was, we are neutral. We are just because we have no competition. After the Fox people start really pushing them around, and after they become start to make huge profits after 9/11, no one ever wants to live with the idea that there wouldn't be another huge profit. The incentive is to turn it out quick. That's true, which is the enemy of getting news out accurately. That is true. Hail and Happy New Year.
Go ahead. I remember a discussion before the show in the chat, and you said something along that where you are, you can handle it and take stuff. Look at this. I accidentally found this scrolling through stuff.
The Ninja Turtles?
Look what it says.
New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. I can take it. Oh, I wasn't big in that for a moment. That's pretty good. We have to change the shape of the beginning. I don't know if I can edit that now. Media assets. Can I? Can I make this fuller? No, I can't change the shape of the picture frames now. You know what? It's true though. We've been through enough in this town that we can take. There we go. Maybe if we embiggen now. Let's try it again. You know what? Nope. It just goes back to. But yeah, I'm a New Yorker. I can take it. Although none of the Ninja Turtles except one had a New York accent, and his was cartoonish. But I would say that I have a question for everybody in the chat and out there. When news is a commodity and there's money in it, this means that when news isn't happening, they're going to fill, a news cycle. So my question is, when all words have the potential to carry a monetary value, and we can use, for an example, there are words we could say right now that would destroy our monetization on this channel. And they're dicks about that. And that word might have just done it right there. But when does reasoned speech become a financial liability? What if you're in the information business? Are you going to say it the way that makes the most money, or are you going to say it the way that is best for everybody else?
Oh, that really depends on who you are.
I think I might answer
CNN, Fox News, they're definitely going to go for the money.
Newsmax as well, because they're not notable enough yet, and they need assets. It's weird that rumor is now more reliable than news. This is all, kind of disturbing. People say they hate drama, but do they really? Because it seems like the lurid and clickbait stories are just a way to cash in, right? And in this modern world, when you see a picture of a wild protest in New York City, do you check to see if people are dressed in season, or you're like, New York's a shithole? You know what I mean? Yesterday in New York, it was 60 degrees, and there was a wild Trump protest showed on X. Everybody's wearing wool hats and mittens and flight jackets and has their hoodies up. Does that sound like 60-degree day behavior?
Some parts of, if you're down in California.
Guess if you have an air show, sure.
Yeah.
That's true. In New York City, 60 degrees is very, very mild, and people's jackets would be open, their hoodies would be down, their sunglasses would be on, and your baseball hat maybe would be on. These people were wearing like Sherpa hats and stuff like that. And it was like, they had signs with like, pro Hillary. So like, does anyone really think that while the pictures were real, they were from a while ago and the story might've been real, but it was exaggerated? And that's when I say, like, when the news agencies fired everybody, when the functioning iPhone started happening, they lost the people who knew what they were doing, because it was some guy smoking a million cigarettes and eating bad food, typing day and night and looking at pictures, who is really the conscience of like journalism in these movies like All the President's Men and things like that, where we see people like investigating the news rather than making it. So, we have to be really careful these days, especially when they keep saying X is the media. X is the one saying that. X is going to keep saying that, and not like sooner or later, people will start to believe it. And people have already said to me, check X for the real story. The real story's on there, but which of the 5 stories that are likely can you say is the truth from X? Does anybody have any X methods?
That's
if you're the news,
determine. You take
if you're
the
a news
CNN
company
guy, you take the weirdo who just had a cell phone camera on the street talking about it. You just have to compile it all and come to the best conclusion yourself.
I hate watching the news.
Reliable than watching CNN and buying whatever they say.
That is definitely true with CNN. Cyrus, you had something to say?
Yeah, I thought he was done. Sorry, my bad.
No problem.
I hate watching the news. And 2 to 3 days before, you've heard like everything on X. 2 to 3 days later, after X, you hear, here's the story. Here's some of the details. Like, wait a minute. The full details were together at the same time on X those 2 to 3 days ago. So why are you only saying half of that when you know the other half is out there? You're either doing a crappy job or you're trying not to say inconvenient things.
Or maybe it's sometimes you've disproven some stories, but you don't even want to acknowledge them, or there's a time constraint because you need to make money, or the corporation that you work for is like, it was our product that was part of the reason this got misreported, bury the story. There's so much to wonder about. So basically, in America, we call them news anchors, but in England and stuff, they're called news readers, and that's basically more what they are. And I think that that's a distinction that we should start to make here in America. Don't you think it would mean a lot more if we simply called people news readers rather than calling them like, some kind of journalist? Like,
they're not journalists. They're entertainment pieces, reading
they're news readers.
Whatever.
They're copy readers, in fact, because it might not be news to you.
See?
What is news is a moving thing. Yes.
The way to put it is, those YouTube channels where all they literally do is they read other people's news stories and they're like, oh, give me money. Give me money. That's pretty much what the modern news is. They get it from somewhere else. They get all the details and information that's 2 to 3 days old from X. And they say, oh, well, we're the source of news. So we need you to make sure you keep funding us for reading other people's news.
That's probably true. I got to be honest.
Yeah. Most of these people aren't even providing commentary.
Sorry, so I can't take it anymore.
Wait, what?
You have to stop throwing pizza at me. No, I can't take it anymore. I feel like it's making me hungry. Thank you. Oh, cool. The NX-01. I think the NX-01 is becoming my favorite ship, but we'll talk about that when we get to the real Star Trek part of this. But you know what? I'm almost done with my little essay here about the price of truth. And this is the thing. I want you guys to understand that the shorter, more approachable shows will have content after the first few minutes where we get people in the door and say hello. I am going to go with my script, and I do not show up unprepared anymore. I don't know how to say it without invoking the wrath of the algorithm. In the time of the numbered lockdown, does that make sense? Lockdown 19. People came to YouTube and turned it on, and I did this same thing, but I didn't do it during a pandemic. But pandemic era YouTubing was like, I turn on the YouTube machine, I live my life, and the YouTube machine is on. And that was pretty cool. And we got some give no Fs kind of people on YouTube just doing whatever they wanted. And then also we had people like, say, Bird of Prey 5 starts to rise beyond other YouTubers because he's more strongly scripted, even though he'll put the StreamYards link in the chat and other stuff like that. That now seems to be by and large gone. And any YouTubers from that era who are still surviving and thriving, it's because they've changed their game and because they've moved on. For instance, Outlaw Bill used to have a talk show. He still does, but like a lot of the time he's doing NFL. He's changing from the pandemic era. There used to be a pandemic level of what was entertaining on YouTube, and I think that may have changed. You guys have any feelings on that?
Yes, trends are definitely changing on YouTube. You can't really be as open as you were with stuff like links because, quite frankly, with all the more attention, there's more assholes out there looking to literally be dicks on your stream.
And we usually keep it to not naming other YouTubers, but there's this guy called Finity who doesn't have a YouTube channel, and he was a real piece of shit. And he would come on and use the fact that you knew and trust him to get him on there. And then he had an agenda to get rid of other YouTubers. So how many times did Finity get in there and turn on some porn to try to destroy your channel on his window?
He got through at least once, and
did it to a few people.
able to. He did it to at least 2 or 3 people that I know of. Several of which aren't around anymore.
Yeah, they're not around because of things like that. And also, he has sent people under guises of friendship to other people's member streams to simulate self-harm and other things that get you kicked off YouTube. So he doesn't have a channel. I can call him a piece of shit, and he is a piece of shit. But the thing is this, that sort of low and pandemic era competition, that's over. I think Tony was here day before yesterday saying amateur hour is over. We all have our own definition of that. For me is this: we still have a conversation that has the looseness and familiarity with our chat and our friends that we had in the past. But at this point, we're kind of locked into doing something that has a little more content, a little more script, and we honestly we cannot be negligent in putting links in the chat. We have to be a little more planned out than we'd ever been before. And as much as we'd love to change a thing here and a thing there, we can't. In the words of Cher, we can't turn back time. And just YouTube is going to be different. There were the Bird of Prey 5s and others who were able to control it, but then I guess the next problem was from the people who bought you no link in the StreamYards chat, Cabe, screenshotting and publishing your group chat to humiliate you. So these things start happening. Being a YouTuber becomes harder and harder. And then the other thing is they de-democratize it by putting an obscene price on it. Just an obscene price on StreamYards. And Jerem, you're a customer on this one too. Things broke your way. You had a few bucks to get the StreamYards. Do you believe that the fact it takes less resources on your computer to run it and you can run a better show means that therefore it is worth the extra money? Or is it just you're going to need a new computer down the road one way or the other? What do you think about the resource trade-off and the price trade-off with YouTube versus something like EV Mux, which I call EV sucks?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier than any other platform out there. Not quite worth the $500 a year they want, because that's just way too damn much. But yeah, it's way easier on your systems. If you can't upgrade, you have to go with StreamYard. It's unfortunate because with EV Mux, it shuts down my system. I can't run that and run the stream and watch party as well.
That's why I went crazy with this build. I decided I don't want overheating. I don't want max CPU. Don't want to run out of resources. I threw money at this thing. I should have thrown more at it. In fact, recently I just did more storage. But if any of you guys ever need help, like getting it from A to B, let me know. It's like uses like 5% of my whole CPU. It's not exactly much to ask.
I felt like when I was a guest on some of these shows, not only was it a strain on my system to be on the show, like I was crashing out and having to come back. So now you're the host, you got to let people in more and more and more. So you're spending more time checking, quote, the basement and letting people in. And then, well, he did the right thing, so we'll name him Gorilla's Random. Is he still Gorilla's Random, or is he Gorilla's Censored? Is that just on
Gorilla's Censored?
Gorilla's Censored Thoughts. Am I the censorer? I am, aren't I? Gorilla's Censored Thoughts like ran a show where I blew up on some people. It wasn't him, it was his guests, and they had it fucking coming. But what happened was he was over challenged. He missed the super chat. He didn't realize someone was in his basement, and it was a celebratory stream because he had been monetized. And what happens when I finally pop out of the basement like 18 minutes later? So many freaking crazy things were said, and my chat was seen by some of the other pundits who just have it out for me and the country that I happen to live in, and the fact that I'm the son of a police officer and, you know, was born to a father who fought in Vietnam. Like, people hate that about me. And so right after the election, right on Veterans Day, we had a military fucking kickout, washout loser, America fail out, and a hateful drunk come after me, and they fucking attack me, my city. And this was the thing that really set me off. After they went after America and the American system, they went after the Yankees. Fuck that.
Well, I can understand going after the Yankees. The Yankees suck.
I'm a Yankee fan, though. Like, it's a low blow to me. You're allowed to say that to me because you can back it up. Just hating on me. It was opportunistic Yankee fan hating. That's all I want to say. But EV Mux did not help that host out. He did do the right thing and say he was sorry for all the confusion. But what are you going to do? You have a crazy fight. He ejected people in the order that he saw fit. He didn't do anything wrong. We still recommend that channel. I just don't endorse that particular stream. And that's because watch right to the end of the year. Is that the new thing? I endorse this channel, but not everything on every stream. You got to say it now, don't you?
Well, yeah, you just have to take like that old network thing that how they put in front of the Sunday morning religious shows. The views expressed in this program did not necessarily reflect the views of this network.
Yeah, like I endorse Tony's channel, but I can't like say that I like agree with every word that comes out of his mouth. That would be unwise. Okay, so the question is that with all these words have potential monetary value. Does speaking with reasoned speech become a financial liability? Right now, it looks like it isn't, because we have the highest numbers we've had in 2 weeks. Maybe 6 weeks. That's for a non-Saturday show. And that's because until now, guys, you need to know this one. The community warning went away. So we'll get on that one next, and we'll explain that one. I had a little bit of a warning. This is all part of a disturbing trend that seems to be residences have changed. Do you remember? Has anyone ever heard the expression "culture politics is downstream from culture"?
Yeah.
I think that culture and I think that politics has moved upstream of culture. I feel that at this point, politics is upstream from culture, because it's like when people meet, it's like, are you a blood or a Crip? Are you team red or team blue? Like, no one stops to say, like, okay, it's equally bad. I probably have more in common with this person than I don't have in common. And a more enjoyable first conversation would be like, what Transformer show do you like best? Or, so you're wearing a Yankee hat. You know what I mean? Like, these are more so. I believe we come from a world where that was more normal, but we live in a world now where, like, we could juice the show and make a lot more money if I started yelling about an agenda and I started yelling politically. However, I feel that, one, we all talked about this when news was breaking last night. A chat went on in our chat. How many of us wanted a part of doing news and politics yesterday with those two horrible stories? And condolences to all.
This is for you.
Go for it.
Take a look.
Jets suck. Yankees suck. Knicks suck. You know what? Peter Griffin is possibly correct. He's possibly correct. It's like that every year. In New York, we can't watch the Knicks right now. There's a Cablevision dispute or Optimum cable dispute, whatever they're called. Hello, Andy Morrow. Happy New Year to you, my friend. It's good to see people still coming in. And please, like I said, tweet out that I'm live. I'm going to be here for a little while longer.
Teag, you missed a dad joke.
I missed a dad joke. What did I miss?
When you said that there's that cable dispute going on with Optimum, you could say, I guess they aren't very optimal.
It's suboptimal that Optimal doesn't have some better control of that. Okay, so listen, anybody, this is for both of you guys, jump ball. Politics used to be downstream from culture. Politics was downstream from culture. Has culture moved and intermingled with politics, or is it even maybe upstream of culture now?
I think they're right there together.
It still means very filthy water at the edge of town, doesn't it?
Yep. Well, that's usually what happens at the end of an era for a civilization.
You're seeing it that grim? I'm seeing America goes forward as 5 regional republics was to the two predictions I made many, many years ago. One day we'll buy cannabis in a store and tobacco in a back alley. We talked about that. And then the other one was the U.S. will probably be 4 or 5 regional republics by 25 years from now. And I said that a long time ago, like 23 years ago, though. Like it's not like we've been tracking away from that since I said it.
Maybe a century. I'd put us at probably mid-2nd century compared to Rome. We saw our height was in living memory, but we know we ain't getting to that point again.
Even during our height, we were making undercutting mistakes. I see your note there. Undercutting mistakes that really hurt us. Listen, the thing is this. To sum it up, in summary, the commodification and the sensationalization of news mess with your mind and challenge traditional journalistic ethics, right? By prioritizing making money over public service. The news doesn't serve us, it's to make money. I have 3 words for you if you don't believe me. Anybody want to dispute that news has become kind of malignant and about making money? Here's 3 words for you. Joe and Mika.
Yep.
I do not care for Joe and Mika.
Pretty much the cancer of the news world.
From money, of money, from politics, of politics, from power, of power. They called Donald Trump Hilter. They said inflammatory things. They called Mar-a-Lago Berchtesgaden. Now, that last part was sort of funny, but like they weren't that creative. Someone wrote it for him. Then as soon as he wins, what do? They go down there and they have dinner with him. They're determined to be in proximity to power more than they are determined to tell us the truth. And whatever is going on at that channel, it is not being served well by Joe and Mika being just, out there with the paper cup, taking money from anyone who'll go by to tell them exactly what they want to hear. Now, Donald Trump might not be Hilter. It's funny how fast he went from 20th century, mid 20th century German mustache man to like, maybe he's all right. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, they know where to get a paycheck.
And I think right
sure
now
they're going to be from MSNBC.
MSNBC, I think, is stuck paying them. I think they're stuck paying them for a while longer. But that's it for as far as news and culture commentary. Admiral has spoken. The scripted part of the show is kind of over, but we can double back and we can also talk about what's going on. Germ, how was your new year? And what are your thoughts going forward into 2025, if any, that you want to share?
New Year was pretty standard. Going forward, I should be getting back to the cartoons, hopefully soon.
Excellent. I was very happy to have you around to talk to again. Hopefully, schedules will keep on moving in a good direction. Radioactive with some good gifts. Yes. Remember America, Sydney Sweeney, and agree with Kirk and the Admiral in the new year. And Happy New Year to everybody out there. And I hope schedules continue to start to synchronize up better so that you can be back on Saturday. Your seat remains open, and you can comment from the chat. And we try to get your input in every episode. We're going to probably this week have, I think, an interesting experience where I may go on before everyone else to start things and say hi to people. It might be 9:00 this week that I go on, but I have no problem being on my own for this one. And I have no problem, I have no problem starting the show for half an hour by myself. People can get there when they get there. If people are able to be there earlier, it's just as good. But I think with the movie for especially Shockwave being what it is, we're gonna get to see Peak Hoshi in part 2, right? Is it part 2?
I believe so.
Peak Hoshi. Politics and culture have mixed now. I try to avoid politics in my sci-fi show stream. Good, that's wise. Discussion, popular sci-fi TV shows, and movie talks. However, it seems unavoidable. You're right. The thing is, we can minimize it. Our conversation yesterday in group chat about how glad we were we didn't have to talk about the tragedy in New Orleans, and hearts go out to everyone from one city attacked by this sort of thing to another, to the goings on in my hometown of Queens, which I'll talk about in a minute. Did anybody want a piece of any of those stories yesterday, right? How happy were we to look forward to our next Star Trek talk?
Yeah, unless news is your topic, I wouldn't go anywhere near it.
We can call something wrong and stand with other people who are Americans because we're Americans, but we're not doing a news show or opinion show where we're going to try to get people fired up over this terrible tragedy, and we're not going to try to monetize it in any way. And that does not reflect any view on people who did talk about it or anyone else. I'm just saying for me. I hate the word safe space. It's like safe injection site. I don't know which one's a bigger lie, but you know what, Germ, since I know you got to be moving on, I don't want to waste any moment with you until the bottom of the hour when you got to bolt. So I would say, you want to expand on that or give me your thoughts on what I'm saying about this.
Yeah. So for stuff like what's happening in the news, you're not going to give it everywhere. You don't want to hear it everywhere. It's best if you're running a channel, stick within your topic. Don't go freeform, and that's how you get in trouble. And that's why people turn out sometimes. They don't want to hear random stuff. They want to get focused on, if you're talking about entertainment, talk about entertainment. If you're talking about Star Trek, sci-fi, just keep it within the lane of the show. You can go out maybe once in a while if you want to change topics, but just on special occasion, just try to keep it within what your topic is for that time, and people will be a lot happier.
Now, I'll ask you this one. As far as, so you don't want politics? We'll bring politics to you, where they stick it right into freaking Star Trek and we have no choice. Where's the line with that? Do you think we're always going to be experimenting with it? Is my take. What do you think? And what's the rules if it is continued experimentation, and we'll never know what are our rules of exploration or our limits on this one?
I think something like that. You just keep it subtle. They're able to do it relatively subtly for the first 3 shows. I think the most in your face point they ever got was with Dax and the great Dax kiss that Bird used to have. That pretty much overshadowed everything else in the episode, so you really didn't get that much of the message. But after that, Voyager sometimes, and then especially in the counterfeit stuff we got now, it's just way over the top.
Hey, Dad, man, by the way. You were right. It is way over the top. And the Star Trek we have now, it's like, if I want to watch a police procedural, I watched an episode of one of the popular police procedurals last night. We were all talking about it while we were talking about other stuff because our group chat was going good last night. And I think a lot of people were just like, we actually are all friends and we have like normal conversations. And like, we're talking in group chat about the Star Trek show last night. And I think one of the things that we all kind of felt was we were very fortunate that events could cool off. Like, I did not go on the week of the election, which is why I blew up when I was called political names. You know what I mean? Like, I went out of my way to not be political, and then to have someone call me political names, that just like I couldn't take it. I went crazy. But you know what? I feel like, especially with Infection 31, we have this TV show. It's a TV movie, really. It's low quality, and these guys are just going to grab us by the hair and stick us into the filthy water of politics without having the decency to give they're going to give us a political swirly, and they're not going to give a courtesy flush first. It's really filthy water because politics and culture have moved we got the political and the cultural just right next to each other, and it ain't helping anybody. And here, like I said, like Germ said, we have to acknowledge real life. We have to acknowledge stuff. The idea that I, a Star Trek pundit, could make some sort of really healing moves, that's the same mistake they make when they jump the Xindi arc from one season to another to make it about 9/11. They're like, Hollywood will make it better. And they change their whole show. And then they're like, that ends up basically being the straw that breaks the camel's back for everything. Because like we said, it's so close to getting renewed. We can't make that same mistake. Our stream will never solve all your problems. We can take your mind off of them, and we can talk about stuff that is of common interest. Once in a while, they're going to throw politics at us. There's nothing we can do. And once in a while, there's news, and there's nothing you can do, which brings us to the final thing. Everyone was sad about this one with the violence in my town. Is it amazing that no one died in that?
I don't know. People can't shoot anymore.
I was born in that town. In a town called Jamaica, Queens, there was a shooting last night that falls under the mass shooting headline, but no one's going to talk about it because, one, New Orleans really was a bigger deal, but like there should be room in the conversation for 30 rounds fired in New York City and 10 people caught a bullet. Now everyone's expected to survive, which is great, but who knows what survive means? Like survive with a forever problem, survive with a flesh wound. That lady whose nose Diddy seems to have shot off like all those years ago. Like she still doesn't have a nose. Doesn't grow back. Bullets are bad. They don't have a good interaction with the human body. So 4 guys show up and gat out 30 rounds in front of a New York City nightclub in Jamaica, Queens. So it's not Manhattan. You're getting almost a genteel, very high-end money Nassau County there. This is shocking stuff. I can't believe nobody died. There have been no arrests as of yet, but I believe the police have leads. You guys have any comments on this story? You want to talk about it at all? Or?
Suspicious amount of things happening in the last 36 hours.
Yeah,
there are real.
And I wouldn't take the reports of shooting. That's usually shootings where people actually get hit. I know personally in my area, I'm nowhere close to the big city. We have at least 6 or 7 shootings a night. Most of the time, they're not hitting anything except for a wall or a tree or something because people can't really aim very well, but they are going off trying.
I have a different theory about this one that takes that out of the equation, but this is just me. You ready? There's gang beefing where people have more specifics going on, but this smacks of gang initiation. Drive by the club and just pop off a bunch of rounds.
That's possible.
But since there was more than one person, that means that that will be out and everyone will know who did it, because that means part of this was to make bones, which means someone's going to say something. Because the only gang in this town that counts is the New York City Police Department. But what was said was a guy named Gonzalez, like Deputy Commissioner Gonzalez, commented on this, and he was on point when he talked about the police department's view that it was wrong and that violence will not be tolerated. And, they assured us there was no nexus to terrorism. It doesn't seem like it. Honestly, that doesn't. But the one thing that bothered me was the head of the New York City Transportation Department, so traffic control, was the one who had to do the press conference, because the hierarchy of the NYPD was all just indicted in a scandal about a month and a half ago.
Congratulations, you're just like Chicago PD now.
Well, it's our slimy mayor who's telling people that he's actually something he's not. He is the wokest maniac. Look at the ballot questions on the last New York mayoral race. There are 6. Read them. One was every permit should have a DEI component. So what if I want to have like a one-man street fair? What do I do? What if I'm like a white straight guy? Like, how do I DEI that one? It's like, please. And they're like, we had a whole St. Patrick's Day parade for white people. Like who knows how you're going to spin that? A DEI commissioner on every city permit board? Is that what people voted for in November? I ask you that.
That sounds like a interesting way to move money around.
Corruption figured into his arrest. By the way, New York City's been around for 500 years. It took till now for a mayor to get arrested. So that's how much of a lowlife he is. It's why it's important to stay vigilant and pay attention to your surroundings. Muslim Uncle, I believe, Radioactive, he knows what he's talking about. And Muslim Uncle said something that I really appreciated. This is the thing. This is not pure escapism. We live in a real world. We'll say, like, we're sorry about this bad thing. And we are sorry about the bad thing that happened in New Orleans. It's very easy to say without any reservations that I absolutely condemn the person who did it. And I call upon the governor of Louisiana to say that capital punishment will be invoked for all people found guilty within a certain degree of causality of this. And I find it to be extremely suspicious that these so-called, boom booms that they found, these bombard cannons that they found laying around, these improvised bombards laying around. I find it very suspicious that just a few hours later, we're totally sure that they're okay. They want to play that goddamn football game way too bad. Anybody?
Yeah, that's a little bit suspicious, but they do got 2 months before that game.
No, I'm talking tonight's big game that's going to flood the area again, the Sugar Bowl. There's going to be a huge game tonight, guys.
Well, I didn't even consider that one, but New Orleans does have the Super Bowl this year.
No one wants that, by the way. No one wants it anymore. Nobody, not the people going there. No one wants it. The Super Bowl ticket's been $10,000 for a long time. It's probably more now. Refund everybody like 30% of their ticket and let them go to another city to take the hotel price and gouging out of their lives and let them be able to go there. You're a 1%er anyway. You'll be all right. And hello to Fleet Admiral Levi. Salute to you, Admiral to Admiral. I think I've been pretty surprised at the modern landscape of media. I felt my love of science fiction, fantasy, and horror was never about escapism, but exploration and fun of ideas. It's supposed to be. But now, when we see headlines about Star Trek's new shows where they're not really Star Trek to me, but, like Lower Decks, it's like, this makes us the first show with 11 trans characters or whatever it might be. It's crazy. It's like we put 7 asterisks on some of these achievements. Before you go, Germ, are we breaking any new frontiers or any barriers? Compared to Commodore Stone in the original series, who calls Kirk out for apparently lying in the Ben Finney court-martial incident. And Science Man Black Admiral April, who's just this useless stick figure in Strange New Worlds. Did Star Trek end up just accomplishing its goals and then being taken over by activists who think that some kind of struggle and warfare needs to be out there? Like Gene Roddenberry had an idea that was 25 years ahead of its time. 30 years passed, people got to where he was around the time he dies, and then for 10 years it stays that way?
Yeah, they definitely had the same problem that certain movements in this country have, that they get to where they wanted to get going, and then against all reason, they said, let's keep going forward.
In the case of some of these causes, we have people expressing regret that they were too naive about new people joining who weren't really aligned with them.
Yeah. Then you get to like the J.K. Rowling situation, where good thing she has money, because those people are going after her.
There was the tweets were vile. The things they said were vile. I don't understand why this lady having her own set of feelings is so offensive and so uncomfortable to people that we have to say, just like, there's like standing up for what you feel you're part of, and then there's becoming part of the problem and being all that you hate. Some of these tweets against Rollins are J.K. Rowling's are, they're exclusionary. They are viciously mean. They are insanely exclusive. They are insanely judgmental. It's really whatever she might have said that seems like it seemed whenever she first said it. And we're talking like 10 years of this antagonism go back and forth now. They have certainly overtaken, outflanked, and made her look like the calmest person in the room, even when she talks about disappearing wizard shit. Am I correct?
Yeah, a lot of this stuff got to the point where, being where she lives, I would assume some of that stuff would reach to the criminal level.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, what they're doing to her, you mean? Some of those things. Hello, Infinity Quest, by the way.
They got some really strict laws. We'll get to this. Social media over in Britain, so I would assume some of that stuff would get to the point of like wishing her harm and stuff wouldn't be legal.
I think what we have is a lot of these people are cowards from other parts of the world who feel like they can't be touched, right?
Yeah, it's a good bet.
All right. I know you said the bottom of the hour was that you had to split, so we're just about there. You want to hang to the last minute, or you want to do a little pitch?
I should get out of here. Just either this Saturday or next Saturday, the return of Saturday morning cartoons. Don't know what I'll be showing yet, but it should be in the next couple of Saturdays that it comes back, and more focused cartoon and sci-fi material coming up.
It's the anniversary of Heavy Metal. Why not do that? I own the movie, by the way. Maybe put it on your poll. I'd be very happy to share it with you.
Yeah, Heavy Metal is definitely on the list.
An unrelated Heavy Metal 2 might be worth watching because it's not terrible. It's all one story, and if you don't dig it, you're not going to get a change of pace.
Yeah. This is actually the one I prefer, the Heavy Metal 2000.
Heavy Metal 2000 is good. It's just it's one story. It's fundamentally different from the other one, and a lot less music. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the question remains. You know what? Resolute Germ's channel is going to be in the description of this after we're done. If you're listening on the rewind, and also just look on my channel recommends. He's, I believe, number 1. And him and Sean are 1 and 2. I forget which one is which, but front page recommendations and great friends. You ready to be beamed down?
Ready to go.
All right, I'm going to scatter your atoms all over the universe. Bye, Jerm. I'll see you soon. It's great to see you again. Happy New Year.
Take care, everybody.
It takes an extra moment for people to clear out the pattern buffer. It's a little harder to escape YouTube now. So, Cyrus, it's just you and me. What's going on?
Oh, well, you saw a couple of the things, or maybe just one of them, but I got that delivery coming up, and then, oh boy, I got something in like the last 5 to 10 minutes of the Steam sale, and I think you will approve. I got Elite Dangerous Deluxe Edition.
I know what Elite Dangerous is, but I don't know. I'm aware of Elite Dangerous, and everyone says great stuff about it, but I'm not aware of what it is. But first, I want to welcome back Infinity Quest, and no need to be sorry. Wow, with walking pneumonia, I know how that can be. I had pleurisy like twice. It still hurts where I had it, and then I finally got better. I immediately got a sore throat and congested again. There is something going around in the form of upper respiratory infection. I was okay. I had some kind of cold for a little while. It took me a few days. Obviously, if it had gotten any worse, I would have taken certain tests to see if I had whatever, because I was, going to see people, and it was a visiting season. But it cleared up and went away, and I'm fine now. But I've had like a form of walking pneumonia in my past. But I'm glad you're feeling better, man. Wow. I'm glad it's good to be missed, but I'm sorry you couldn't be here. And thanks for thinking about us. We've been well. I can't speak for Doomcock, but he seems to be doing very well. And I'm doing probably a personal high. We're up to 2,067 of you. And I couldn't be more proud, and I couldn't be more thankful to have a community this big. I never thought it would get beyond a few dozen people. Thank you guys so much. Looking forward to this Saturday's movie event with Star Trek. New York is lagging behind Providence, Rhode Island. Mayor Buddy Chianci was arrested and convicted twice, even got reelected after his first no contest plea for these two things. Yeah, can't New York City keep up? Isn't that the name of the middle school in Family Guy, Buddy Chianci High School? Or Buddy Chianci Middle School?
I don't know about that.
I'm pretty sure that in Family Guy, the high school or the middle school is the Buddy Chianci School. It's the James Woods High School, right? It's James Woods is outside town.
Yeah, James Woods. I know that one. Definitely.
James Woods is a forest outside of Quahog. It's like a national park in the show. So James Woods High School is named after that. But James Woods has like some kind of anger orgasm going on against everything in Quahog. And he's been in some great episodes of Family Guy, which proves like proves that it's a good show. And also that we know how Seth feels, but he'll bring on people who don't feel the same way as him. I feel that buys him credibility when he says what he wants to say, but he's more willing to have people on, elevate people who have a different point of view and show that he can be respectfully friends with them. That's kind of cool. And it's about time that we got there. Let's see. Mark says, I don't dislike Rowling for her politics. I dislike her for her poor writing and research. Someone talked about the amount of unnecessary words and like things. Was it like needless adjectives over and over and double adverbs a lot? And that once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. And that like basically she beats around the bush for the middle of every paragraph, and it's the first and the last sentence are all that matter. So it's like the old speed reading thing. It's like you could speed read through Harry Potter in like a couple of hours because of the fact that it's really just a lot of it. Like the middle of every paragraph just circles around and doesn't advance anything. And it's just like a lot like layering on adverbs and adjectives. They're adult children who crave attention and social accolades with no effort. Since they lack the mind to identify issues in the world or solve problems and lack emotional security, they instead overwhelmingly are attracted to violence and bullying. I would agree that that's true in the world of modern Trek. And again, like we were all like in different places watching the same crime show or talking about the same crime show. In the crime show had representation. There was the murder victim was trans, right? And so the episode was kind of like the person was trying to tell their family about their other identity and stuff like that. And like they went back to their community in Queens. They were from Queens, of course. And like they were just like everybody was closed-minded to it, and they were a little worried, but no one hated the person and no one wished anything bad on them. A serial predator came across them and did some stuff and does that person in. Then they almost get another person. And then what we find out is the father of the first victim, a police officer, had cleaned up the crime scene because he didn't want the other cops to know that his son was trans. And that had enabled the second attack. And then the police officer gave up his badge and his career and told the truth about everything, and they were able to convict the killer. So what I'd say is we had a mystery box, we had representation, and we didn't stress the difference between believability and realism. Some characters insisted on calling the person by their new name. Other people called them by the name that they were born in. The Aiden and Ada thing went back and forth in the show, depending upon that particular character's point of view, representing how everyone felt, and without making them be, and no one started arguing back and forth with each other. They remarked about it. That's it. And then one person was opportunistically using the pronouns to get the right reactions to try to solve a larger thing, which was a crime. And I'd say this wasn't weird or woke, and it got everything in there because the show was about victims of a unique nature. So you know what show it was. But the other thing about it was that person was still shown as being a member of a highly vulnerable community that was preyed to people who were not normal people. They were not hated by the normal people. They were thought of as different, and they were not like overly welcomed, but they weren't super shunned. It was a moment of shock for all the people. We don't know how everyone would have ended up. The person was only in their 20s. But at the end of the day, we closed the mystery box. We had all sorts of representation. We had flawed but not evil guardians. Most of the guardians was good. We had an institution where some people were a problem, but the institution was overall good. Let me ask you something. Did we get to everything being represented without being woke in that story based on my schematic right there?
Oh, I don't have too much of a comment on that one, to be honest.
You know what? I'll bounce this off of you. We have someone who's part of the community. They exist, right? But they were shown in proportion to what they are in society because a highly specialized police unit has to get involved. That's that weird. That's that few of these people. But the show accurately says that they're much more likely to be victim of a crime. Then that's just a truism.
It gets really old now.
It does get really old. The thing is that this show has been on TV for a decade or more, and they'll move on to another weird crime next week. You know what I mean? Like they won't only do that all year. So I think that's maybe one story out of 22 in a season. So the thing is, the next week they move on to something like somebody was just a special victim because they were like young, or someone was a special victim because they were old. This was this one was really, really, really graphic. But the thing was, like, they represent the person, but they still show them as part of an at-risk group that's not that is preyed upon. They don't glamorize them, nor do they glamorize being part of it. And they kind of show everybody, just this story, like this is a big city. Bad things happen. People are at risk. And our institution, in this case, the police department, it's big enough with enough people in it that are good. And even the most flawed officer will stand up for what's right. Because in the end, what happens is the cop who had tried to cover for what happened to his son comes clean, gives a confession, changes the complexion of the whole matter, and the person is rightly found guilty. And they had killed, by the time they found everything out and tied it up, they had like a body count around 11. So no one wanted that person out, no matter who they were targeting. You get what I'm saying with that one? We covered everything. It wasn't glamorous to be that thing. They weren't magically better than everyone else. And all characters had a different point of view on what the person's name and pronouns were. It was sort of topical. Modern Trek, modern Star Wars, Furies, Doctor Who, basically anything popular that they get into. It's strange that modern Trek hasn't been weirder, but I think it's just because they have to resell Star Trek back to the network that makes it. So I just don't know. It has to be things they can commit a little bit of intellectual extortion with by saying things like, you didn't allow us to represent women well enough, rather than some of these much more weird stuff. Let's see. I've noticed overwhelmingly shows that have the best representation and the most diversity when the showrunners and staff aren't talking about how diverse and inclusive they are. Good writers allow characters to be people instead of vehicles of the writer's opinions and stand-ins for entire groups of people. That's true to a great extent with the crime show we saw. This person was shown as being a person that exists. They were the only person of that type in the story, except for the other victim. And this person was seeking out those people to harm them. The police were seen as good and on the side of getting justice for everyone. And, people running around taking lives, obviously the worst thing you could have. So I thought that it had all things in proportion, because it did not show it as like think of the Disney version of this. It's like you couldn't have that unique victim, because that kind of person, someone who's trans, would have had to kill their attacker. Do you understand what I mean? If that makes any sense.
I mean, going all the way back to the whole, they're more likely to be on the receiving end. Not quite true in general. Usually it's because they're the antagonizing party, and then all you do is you claim victim status. That's it.
When you have a group that is overrepresented by the amount of crime visited on that group, you would have to say that it's all the above. There's probably some predatory stuff, but yeah, personalities play into a lot of it too. You got to go case by case, because even though they're overwhelmingly targeted as far as a percentage of a group, they as a sample size are so small that it might not mean anything. It might be they in themselves may be producing their own anomaly, because we don't understand statistics. I can't say like what happens. Let's see. Mark Harkness, don't forget the Laotians, the Vietnamese, and the Cambodians, the Thais. You know what? We were talking about Vietnam today. I called it VPN Nam. So many fake accounts there. Am I right? Why is that?
You did mention in the past that a good number of connections seem to be coming from there. So something's up.
Is it where people in like places like Australia and New Zealand who are bad-hearted would have their VPN set up, or is that a good place for everyone to turn your VPN onto because you get everyone's programming? I don't know.
Who knows?
No one knows. In the darkest night, no one knows. The 90s might have been peak TV. It might have been peak TV might end when TV becomes new aspect ratio. It seems to be cut off really hard right there. We have some Star Trek in that, but that very little. I've always felt that the Wizarding World of Harry Potter was mostly elite schools without being explicitly stated. Was mostly about elite schools without explicitly being stated as such. Hello, Fleet Admiral. I greeted Fleet Admiral, but you know what? Admiral's compliments one admiral to another. Yeah, that could be viewed that way. One thing I will do this year is watch the Harry Potter movies. I guess the elves had the homeschool. Certainly, the people in the Rings of Power. Wow, oh man, I don't know what their excuse is. They had. I mean, it seemed to be in that one. Their agenda wasn't to show homeschooling as evil, but like obviously they were all educated from within their tribe, and when they showed the people doing the education, it was tribalistic and it was messed up and it was weird. It was like nobody leaves the road and no one gets left behind. And then they told stories about how they left the road and how they left a lot of people behind. I got this comment. RRTNZ, welcome. I can take it. You know what? The gangster song from Ice Cube, was it Ice T rather? It was point of view, and I thought it was entertaining. He's a decent enough actor in the role, but certainly at this point, the fact that for 26 years we've had these super cops solving every case in New York City, and that it would be on CNN, it's like I don't even know how you would be on that show. Like, how do you play one of their detectives? It's like all these sensationalistic things happen, but they happen all the time on your show. So you can't register, like I would imagine that registering surprise would be something you couldn't do. Like this Queens nightclub thing on an episode of a New York City crime drama, it would be like, so we got like 15 Vicks. Who are the perps? Four gunmen, mid-20s. Okay, let's get on it. And they'd send like two cops. And it would seem like the most unimportant thing ever. What can you do? Crime shows get it wrong too. The thing is, more people die in crime shows in New York than die in the actual city of New York on a weekly basis to violence. As we talk about Harry Potter for a minute, what do you think, Cyrus? Do I have a cultural blind spot because I've never seen 1 minute of one Harry Potter movie except on YouTube, where I've seen How Dare You Stammer He Stood?
Sure, I guess so.
I may have to see at least Harry Potter 1. And with that one, I guess, do I have anything left on my script? I do have the sensationalism over substance as an ethical drama that we talked about. The impact is that journalists might feel pressured to skew their stories and talk about less significant things that are more sensational. Like, for instance, I am being a really bad for-profit journalist, but a really good ethical journalist on my show, because here's what we did. You know what would be the best thing for this show right now would be to talk about Star Trek nonstop and hashtag the show with Section 31. But I've noticed that because they can't make a dent, and because the fake engagement is detectable in a way that if anyone has any sophistication, I would hope that the people who buy ads and stuff like that can now tell fake engagement. We are not going to feed this nonsense with Section 31. We're not going to use their hashtag. I encourage everybody to stay away from it. And I hesitate to use these words because of the guy Alejandro Jimenez's connection to them. But Cyrus, in the information engagement warfare, if you would, where we try to do legally things to register our distaste and not break any laws, doing things with freedom of speech, doing things with our ability to not speak about something. What do you think of my idea? I've asked this before, but do you think there's a case to be made suppressing the Star Trek hashtag would be good for hurting the success of Infection 31?
Yeah, because you don't want more people watching trash, especially when you're telling them, hey, this is trash, you shouldn't watch it. Other people might get curious. They'll be like, oh my, why did I watch this? This is absolute trash. So you don't want to influence a pile of trash getting bigger and more attention. We get it. It looks bad. It smells bad. It's a terrible thing. So not giving them any feed whatsoever, best idea.
Now, things have changed a little bit in the last couple of weeks. They're getting a little bit. You can see that the people from Section 31 are trying to get somewhere. Here's their current trend pattern. Okay, so as you can see, bloop, 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 bloop. But as you can see, they spike when my show is on. So I am their big. They try to connect off my show. They try to do that. Here's the thing. They're not having any success when I'm tweeting, and they're riding off me. So now the bottom line is that this is Google Trends. This measures the amount of people. Everybody loves a dumpster fire. So I see your logic there. Talking about how bad it is winds up the new fans. Yes. And gets others curious about just how bad. I agree with you totally. But as you can see, just like little blips, little trend lines. And this is from, earlier today. Now, this has nothing to do with me. It's the middle of the night, 3 a.m. They managed to get a couple. And look how low it is, 78 tweets in this hour. They managed to get exactly 100 tweets. Deeply suspect right there. This looks like a ping of some kind. They're hoping for real organic. Look at this, too. Like anything artificial is going to be seen because most of the time it's 0. Then all of a sudden, in the space of this 1 minute, 100. Does that smack of insincerity to you, Cyrus? 100 queries in a minute. Exactly.
Does look weird.
Then nothing happens. This is at 6 a.m. So nowhere in America are people up and at it, but people who are overseas, YouTubers and overseas, ex-farmers, they are awake, like in India. So that's why it's trending then, in my opinion. Then today at 1:16, it trends because my show starts at 2. Then at 2, it trends a little more. Now, I'm not doing much here, but this is their only organic stuff. 60 impressions because people came here. It matches the impressions to my show. Now, that's because they are going to hang that on me no matter what. I can't get away from it. Hang in there with me during this. And what we'll do is we have still managed to, one, faking this is easy to tell. It's a flat line. No one cares. 2, if we don't talk about it, it will make the fake stuff show up more. 3, I don't think we've probably gotten to the point where they have AI transcripts because YouTube has one, and it's probably something that's programmed to read that. But my mentioning of Star Trek in Section 31 within my show that's not labeled Star Trek or Section 31, that is helpful to us and minimizes the help to them. If we don't exist, we can suppress the hashtag. And what I'm saying is you would see a lot more of this and it would look more organic. Look at this in the middle of the night and stuff. Well, this is still prime time, 8 and 9. But like, here's the real interest from Americans: 10, 20 an hour, hours with nothing going on after 10 p.m. Little blip here and there. A crazy blip at 3 a.m. for 1 minute, because this goes every 20 minutes. You can see how the time code works out there. Then 100 exactly at 5:56 a.m. It's just, it couldn't be more sauce. It happened at 5:55. It took a minute to record, is my impression. And then, a little bit here and there. So if we could keep the control of the hashtag, we'll probably win. Snape is a closet Trekkie. That would be great. Alan Rickman never made it into Star Trek, unfortunately. And Radioactive enjoys the joke. What do you guys think? Should I come back later for 1883, or should I kick it to tomorrow? Tomorrow? Oh, wait, no, tomorrow I can only be on at night, because in the afternoon I'm going to meet my cousin and have lunch. It's going to be fun. I haven't seen her in a long time. But we came up watching Star Trek together. But I'm glad you guys were able to hang out, and I hope we had a valuable show. Cyrus, what you got going on today, my man?
Right when you asked that, something started playing. What was the question?
What are you up to for the rest of the day, my man?
The plans are really in the air right now. It depends on when someone gets back to me. So I have no idea. I do want to download and try Elite Dangerous tonight. That sounds like it's going to be fun. People keep saying, oh, yeah, it's good. You should get it. I was wondering about that. And, space game. How could you go wrong getting a space game, especially if you can blow stuff up, you can travel, you can mine, whatever. It should be fun. Other than that, I'm going to look for other stuff to buy, equipment, or otherwise supplies for the equipment. It's about time now that I'm going to have that new piece of hardware, I think it's time to get the factory up to full speed here.
Yeah, and I can see what's going on. There's 1,000 people are watching Clownfish. Clownfish isn't live, so don't run over there to watch it. Clownfish is just on premiere mode. They did stream just once. Clownfish TV says that they don't like to stream because they don't like dealing with other YouTubers is insanity. Just remember, Cyrus, Elite has a learning cliff, not a learning curve. Ooh, Radioactive knows this stuff.
Oh, man. Uh-oh. Is that like I should be using a controller kind of, learning cliff, or what should I be doing there?
We'll see what Radioactive has to say.
No.
We'll give it a minute for him to
I mean, if I can get Starfield, I should be able to do Elite Dangerous just fine, let alone, shoot, what was that old space MMO? I forget what it was. That one was a learning curve as well.
Okay,
Eve or something like that.
I don't remember. I'm bad with the video game references, because basically
you keep missing the TV references every time.
I'm a media critic, not a media memory bank. Yeah, I do miss them.
Okay, fair point.
Right? Yeah. Here's the thing. I now spend as much time manufacturing and working on the written content and the scripted stuff for this show as I do taking in any pop culture, or I wouldn't be able to be professional. And I've narrowed my scope a little bit. Other people got Disney. I have a much more deadly opponent that is not as well. They're not as inept as Disney. Here's the thing. My opponent seems to be, for some reason, Paramount, even though I endorse most of what they do, including their football coverage. The things I don't like about their football coverage is what I hate about everyone's football coverage. But I endorse Yellowstone, 1923 and 1883. I endorse all the old Star Trek shows on Paramount. And if they didn't have new modern Star Trek, they would probably be doing a lot better. But because they do, they aren't. What's up?
Look at Infinity's post. You know how I always make the joke about putting things out the airlock? Looks like I'm going to be doing the reverse airlock. Hopefully, though, if it's like a Vorion where you can, your ship is heavy or slow, you can just flip it around and then punch it to not smash into something. So I'll learn one way or another.
Is he right about the game? Is it EVE Online?
Yeah, it was EVE Online for the Space MMO. I never paid for it because I didn't see the point. It just wasn't worth buying into it so much as free play, because it was so slow and tedious for EVE. Hopefully Elite Dangerous removes that kind of grind garbage.
Here's let's hope so. Is the less of grind. Here's the thing, Yellowstoners, your Yellowstone show, and while X is such a much bigger part of this program's audience than YouTube is being lately, but YouTube's really getting back in there in a way it hasn't been engaged in a while. So we're getting back to where we need to be, and we have a lot of competition right now. So I'm not too concerned. I'm happy you guys are here, and I'm happy to be able to put a show on that you're going to be able to rewatch. But here's to it, Yellowstone Fleet Admiral Levi. You should probably go in number order, not order of release, because Yellowstone Prime spoils 1883 and 1923 spoils 1883. But nothing yet that I've seen has spoiled 1923. 1883 came out of Grandpappy stories from Kevin Costner's character on Yellowstone, so it has to conform to things that he's already said. So it's respectful of its own lore, but a lot of characters' fates are revealed and a lot of stuff's revealed. In 1923, they reveal the fate of the last few Yellowstone characters from 1883 as though you know about it, assuming that you do. The good news is the series narrator is really good. The bad news is Taylor Sheridan is now no longer the full-on creator of Yellowstone. Some sort of breaking of ways happened. Costner is certainly in the mix of the animosity. The new Yellowstone's called The Madison. It looks like it could be a good show. They're going to take the whole world of Yellowstone. It's going to be people like the Yellowstone people are in it. It's going to be Beth Dutton will be in it. People from the Yellowstone world are going to be in the world of the Madison. They're just going to have a place somewhere, and it's going to be near the Madison River or named after it, or maybe named after Madison Avenue, but it's in the Madison area with the three branches of the Missouri River. The radioactive was kind enough to tell us about. Same. I thought it looked cool, but I can't get behind the idea of buying a game only to give them more money to play it. At that point, I bought a $60 box to look at the art. That might be true. Let's see. There is a grind in Elite. However, FDEV eased the grind back a bit in August. That was
well. I'm just hoping that I can start off not by destroying stuff. I want to be a mining ship and just make a ton of money getting a bigger, badder mining ship and then get something that blows stuff up. Hopefully that's a possibility. Didn't look into it. I'll find out.
And Fleet Admiral is right about Taylor Sheridan and Costner. And Ariel O'Neill Ballet, isn't that image towards the end of We Were Soldiers? Yes. Good catch. It's when the press and the politicals get there. I guess there's probably a CIA guy in the mix, but the press get there, and there's been this horrific battle, and they're like, Colonel Moore, do you have anything to say about the fate of your men? It's like, Colonel Moore, how strong was the enemy? And he's just like got 1,000-yard stare, and they're treating him like he's a government official who needs to have a press conference, and it's almost like the end of a football game. And the only journalists who seem to have their have any ethics or seem to have any morality are the photographers, because while everyone's sort of what comes off after what he's been through is verbally abusing Colonel Moore after he's been heavily engaged for like 3 days or something like that, and even had to go Broken Arrow. The photographers are just taking the silent and hard to argue images of war, where it's just this flag represented well, and I'll take myself out so you can see. That flag represented well how hard they fought and what they were through. And at the end of the movie, after they're going to leave, Mel Gibson puts that flag into the stump of a tree that's been blown apart. And after these people leave, the Vietnamese commander picks that flag up. And I believe that might be true, because what happens is the American commander wrote a book, and then after the war, the Vietnamese commander cooperates with the movie. So the movie's more complete than the American book. It's got the Vietnamese perspective in there. It's a good movie. It's the only Vietnam War movie that shows the Americans as noble and more willing to save each other than get high and want to go home. Embrace the space trucker grind set. Space trucker, let's go space trucking. Just don't respond to any alien signals on LV-486. Yeah, no. For LV-486, at 426, I hope they don't put a colony there. Nothing can be worse. Hail, John the Beagle Dad. You can do mining. Actually, 4 types of mining, not counting prospecting on the surfaces of planets and more. I like mining in Tropico. It doesn't bother me. And hello, April. Ariel O'Neill Ballet. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you April. Ariel O'Neill Ballet. It's just dyslexia. I know who you are. It's good to see you again. Didn't Colonel Moore said, "Remember my men. Remember what they did here." I think that's the only thing he says. And then like everyone leaves and they show his boot as the last one off the ground. The book is called "We Were Young, We Were Soldiers and Young Once," I believe is the title. And also The Long Gray Line is another book that figures in, as well as the story of the journalist who is stuck at the battlefield. The book is pretty. I think there's a book. Is the book called The Long Gray Line, or is the book called We Were Soldiers and Young Once? I read both. And Hale, John the Beagle Dad, a friend of mine. And then the Vietnam colonel states that in the end, they will think this is a victory for them. Yeah. Well, one of the stories to come from the end of the Vietnam War is they did say that at the peace conference, the Vietnamese said to the Americans, the Americans are like, what are your demands? And they're like, we don't have any demands. We just want to know one thing. How much time? And they're like, what do you mean? They're like, how long until you just give up and go home? Because we're going to fight until you leave. And that stunned the American diplomats. And I don't know how you respond to that, quite honestly. I'm glad you're here. We're getting ready to kind of, we got the late rush. Is it on X or is it on YouTube as well? Let me see. 13 watching now. Obviously, what happened? Did Midnight's Edge just end? The Hollywood part of the show is a little earlier, but we can recap it a little bit just to hang out for a few, because now that we've crossed over to the Magical 2, I'll go about 15 to 20 more. I don't know how free Cyrus is to stay with me. I hereby release you from your commitment, and you're here as long as you want.
That depends. What do you got in mind?
We could recap the Hollywood stuff, or we could talk about what happened in New York. We could talk about a little about New Orleans, but we have to be really careful talking about that one because of
the more information comes out on the various events, the more suspicious some of them look. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would that happen before the other thing happens? And how is it that something's unrecognizable yet a ID is fully intact? Makes zero sense.
Looking for a space exploration game where you feel the loss of resources and people. I'd love a Shackleton style story. That's the Arctic Explorer guys these Arctic Explorers, like, it's late 19th century. They have some tech. They think it's like the most tech anyone could ever have. It's just the most anyone tech's ever had yet. And so they were overconfident, and they had food that was sealed in tins with lead. So like their sense of direction and ability and judgment gets worse and worse. They end up being lost, but they live for a while, I think, if I remember correctly. We Were Soldiers Once and Young, I believe. Thank you. Yeah. The Long Gray Line is incorporated into it, as is a story of the battle. So there's like 3 books out there, and possibly one that combines all of them into the story of the movie that is like more historically accurate. Open bar is about to start. Well, that means we got to get out of there. A new hashtag, Free Sirius. The Admiral has him imprisoned in the broom cupboard, sustaining him only on the replicated fish heads. Yes, and as they would say on Open Bar, Snoke soup. All right, guys, you know what? We got Critical Drinker coming at you now. Go raid his show. Say hi for me. Not that anyone will notice with 4 million subs. It's amazing. Thanks for being here and being part of my show. I'm not going to be around tomorrow. Saturday, we have a special Star Trek movie event. I might be a little early. That show will be listed by the end of today, and publicity for that will start tomorrow. I thank you all, and I thank Cyrus for hanging out with us. Cyrus, thanks a lot for being here. You're the man. We're not gonna crash into the tide that is the drinker. That is a mighty thing. Although I will say this, at times in the past, it hasn't been a big deal because the rewatchability on the drinker is very high. His show, he keeps it short too. So 2 hours, 2 minutes, not quite the briefest show, but we didn't blow away the 90 minutes by too much, did we, Cyrus? Am I doing all right? Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad all of you are here. You know what, guys? You have many choices in entertainment, but if I start going too long live, what happens is YouTube starts to really get abusive towards me. So what I'm going to do is, with a decent amount of decent number right now and a strong 2-hour show, I'm gonna tap out and thank you guys for being here. But first, I have a couple of things that you guys can have to keep you here while we see what's going on here at the Star Trek channel. And obviously we found out that and the Yellowstone channel, We found out that we can't play about one song until I remaster it lower, but we can take a look at Sydney Sweeney. And with that, we have our Sydney Sweeney themed ending. Sydney Sweeney she had 2024. It was, as for all chicks, 2024 was the biggest for her. She was huge in 2024. It was a big league thing. It was enjoyable. And the more I think about it, it says 9:30. We might be on at 9. Watch for the notifications. I got to think more. I don't know if we can do 2 episodes in the same amount of time. I might need to come on just a little earlier, but it might not truly matter because honestly, that story might be able to be analyzed in the same time as a regular story. It's just we might only need 20 more minutes. And after last week's roundtable about all of season 1, maybe a shorter show is in order because like that show is doing great still. People do not shy away from the 5-hour broadcast, but we'll give you one that's consumable now. Cyrus, let's watch some Star Trek. Everybody out there, we love you all. Be safe, be careful, be good to each other, and in this new year, may it bring you all the best as we have our first show of the new year. May it bring you all prosperity and safety. May it bring you happiness. And just remember, we do love and care about each and every one of you, which is why we give you Sydney Sweeney. Hopefully this time you can get it. I love you all. Thank you all for being here. Saving Star Trek is fun to do, but it's easy to see not very. Good luck. Just turn around to the sound right to yourself. Here we go.